Okay, I would like to talk about applying some design methods in maybe a different context. The discussion today has talked a bit about the business sector. I know Mariana also talked about the public and the private sector getting together and doing different things. I work at a school of governance in Berlin, Germany. Governance simply means bringing together the public sector, the private sector, and civil society to address some problem. And what I did in actually now 3 different classes, I will talk about 2 classes, is that I took a group of our students and we used design methods to think through a specific problem. And I'm going to illustrate how we did this and what lessons we learned from this. To again illustrate, I think, some of the ways that you can use some design elements to explore some of the issues that may come up in your own line of work. I'm pointing into this thing the right way. I'm sorry. I think I'm pointing the wrong one. I apologize. So, just again, in terms of the context, Sabina has now left. Sabina Junginger has looked at the role of design in the policy-making process and tried to reconceptualize policy-making that is coming up with some way of dealing with a public problem using, again, a design approach. And again, what I do is I take this into classroom. Now, just a few words about my school. We have only graduate students. That is, all of our students already have a bachelor's degree. We have about 170 to 180 students we admit each year for a 2-year program. Some students do come from China, but we have students who come literally from around the world. We're based in Germany, so maybe 40% of our students or so are German, but the language of instruction is in English. And we have students from Asia, from Latin America, from the US, and from other sorts of places. So it's a very international group in terms of how this is set up. In the class, we had a specific problem. I mentioned that you first wanted to find what this problem is. In fact, we used this design methods to try to get a handle of what is really the problem. We had a project with the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, which is based in Paris. This individual, Christian Kastrup, sponsored the class and said, here's the problem for the students, do something with it. The problem in this specific course was about taxes across borders. Okay, so how do you tax fairly big companies that might have operations in many different countries? And how do you do this in some sort of fairly uniform way? Well, there's something that's called BEPS. Okay? And BEPS is thinking about this, looking specifically at the base of taxation and looking at something that's called transfer pricing, different ways to try to hide money if you're a big corporation. And the idea of this BEPS project was to do this across different countries. The OECD just simply proposed this, but there had been no examination of what was the problem in the individual countries. Okay, what sorts of things were you really trying to solve? And so the exercise in the class was for the students to go and identify a country that they cared a lot about, that they knew something about, and to ask, how could BEPS indeed be set up? Now, you might ask, what exactly is the problem, at least as the press describes it? Well, if you look at the way Google's taxation worked for a period of time, there was something that was called a double Irish-Dutch sandwich. Now, why is it called double Irish-Dutch? Well, this is an illustration that if Google made money in Australia, they would send the money to Ireland, then the money would go to the Netherlands, then it would go back to Ireland, and it would finally finish in Bermuda. And in Bermuda is where it would be taxed at essentially a rate of 0. Okay, for money that it earned in Australia. And so the question was, should it be a standard base across different sorts of countries to deal with these sorts of things? And again, this is just one example. So one of the questions to ask the students is, let's think about this in terms of a product. What exactly is the product that you are thinking about, that you can use the word that you are designing? What we did is we took Craig Fogel's book. I think Craig is here tomorrow. In fact, he comes to how this runs. He's got 2 editions, 2002 and 2012. And we said, okay, creating breakthrough products, let's think about creating breakthrough products in this realm of taxation. And let's take the methodology that's in his book and let's apply it directly to this specific problem. Now, what does this mean in practice? These are simply the main points from this chapter in chapter 5, where he talked about the process that you go through. When you think about this, you start with a new, when you think about integrating new product development, you think about working in teams, horizontally, also teams that are interdisciplinary. What does this mean? This means you put together a team that's not just engineers, or not just designers, or not just marketers or salespeople, but their book advocates having people with different perspectives in the team to work through this specific exercise. So to simulate this in a class, we just had students with different backgrounds, maybe an economist, political scientist, somebody who has a design background. We do have people with design backgrounds at the university. And you get them together and deal with things. You focus on what it is that the customers want. Well, one of the exercises is who's a customer in this case. So maybe you call Google and ask Google, as tax people, would you please speak to our students about what sorts of dilemmas that you have? Maybe you speak with a tax inspector. You ask them what sorts of issues do they have on the government side. You speak to an accountant, and indeed, this is what the students did. They went around and they tried specifically to talk to private sector firms, but they spoke to many different sectors to try to get a perspective on what really was happening in this policy. They also started in a rather qualitative, ethnographic fashion, as I just described, by really going and talking to people and interviewing them, and taking a lot of notes about what it is that was really going on. Now, I said they had to choose countries. I should say they did not choose China, but they chose 6 countries. They chose Australia, South Africa, Germany, the United States, Ireland, and the Netherlands. Some of this had to do with, it was just easier to access some things in English, to be honest. Some of this was because Ireland and the Netherlands are known as places where a lot of money is hidden. And so on the tax side, you want to get some places where a lot of money seems to disappear. The Germans, however, actually have a very high tax rate, and there's an accusation, it's not accusation, there's a sense that a lot of money leaves Germany for, say, Ireland or Bermuda or some other place. And so note there's also an intent to learn something by having different examples, not just one example, in terms of how this whole thing was set up. Now, in terms of the product planning stage, again, this just simply comes from the book from Kagan and Fogel, but we went through this quite diligently. We looked at identifying opportunities. We want to understand the opportunities. We want to conceptualize what that opportunity is. And we want to realize those opportunities. And what we did in class is we took a week for each one of these bullet points. We talked about the theory, and then we did group exercises to learn what you really need to identify an opportunity. And then we had the students go do it themselves. So in terms of the outline, I have an outline here that kind of explains how this runs. I said to go and do it themselves, and then come back to class and they say, this is how we apply this. In the group presentation, they discussed readings that was in the next part of that book. They then did some group work, and then they discussed the group work. So you have this iterative process within a class setting that was meant to be sort of iterative to think through some of the design methods. Now, this one's going to be a little hard to read, so I'll explain it, but I think it is important to illustrate how this works in practice. The idea, doesn't show up. There's something called a patent box. A patent box is something that if you are developing a patent, you pay a much lower tax rate. Okay, so this is something that Dutch owners use. Very, very, very low tax rate. And so the question here is you say, okay, we've got a patent box, take cake and focal, and you start out and you identify opportunities. Okay, what are the social, economic, and technological factors behind the use of these sorts of patent boxes? What is the opportunity gap? That is, why do these things exist in the first place? Why would you use a patent box? And then I asked them to prepare a product opportunity statement for these patent boxes. The next step is thinking about understanding your opportunity. So you need to prepare a short story that focuses on a specific individual. It could be a company again, it could be a tax official, it could be somebody else. And then you have to conceptualize the opportunity. You have to begin to move towards the product itself. What should the product look like? So note again, it's taking the methods that you see in design, but applying it to a very specific angle of the tax system and something that was being discussed in different countries. And the nice thing about this is we really did get feedback that was often quite different depending on where countries were. For example, I mentioned this idea of the patent box. One other country, Luxembourg, uses these. And it turns out that a company like Starbucks says it develops almost all of its research and development on how to produce coffee is in Luxembourg. It's not in the United States, it's not in the UK or anyplace else, it's all in Luxembourg. They supposedly have a huge research and development staff just there. Well, one question is, sort of, again, what's the opportunity? Why don't you do something along these lines? And can you use these sorts of methods to think through this more systematically? Now, in terms of what worked and what didn't, one angle here is that was quite useful. I was surprised how many people were willing to speak with just students cold calling and saying, hi, I'm a student in Berlin, you're in Australia, and I'd like to talk to you about what sort of taxes you have. It's rather sensitive, we know, but we'll keep it confidential, and just students, but talk to us. You could talk to a lot of people, I think, in terms of how this goes. One of the negatives, though, is that both South Africa and Australia have mining industries where there's a lot of tax issues, and nobody from any mining industry would ever talk to one of the students. So there was also a selective effect. I should say, by the way, technology companies are quite open, which surprises as well, in terms of how this runs. Mining, not. I mentioned already one IT person held a class for us, and offered to speak to the students about issues of data. Now, one disadvantage of this, and I'll show you how we try to address this later, is these students, of course, are just in Berlin. You send emails and phone calls, but this would have been much more effective if you get out and see people. And indeed, a lot of the graphic stuff is just what you do simply from a laptop. Well, what the students did is they did my presentations. We invited in somebody from Paris to meet with them. And the students had to then define and design, they had a very short time period to impart what the product was. And just to get a sense of some, what I thought was one of the clever aspects, the winner, there was a competition, but the winner of the six was the Dutch team, where they had a skit, they had a play, where one person was government, the second person was a business, and the third was a non-governmental organization working about tax burdens. And they played through what the experiences were of these different individuals and how that affected the type of product they ultimately recommended. So I hope as I talk about this, I'm using language that designers are very familiar with, but I'm showing you how it's applied in a different type of setting. Now, in terms of evaluation, this was, I thought, quite useful. Indicate how you intend to evaluate teamwork, at a minimum, some place that these discuss what definition of good and bad teamwork. Take it forward and discuss this. We took very seriously this idea of how do teams work, what sort of dynamics do you have, and what leads to better product development in terms of how this runs. And we asked students to evaluate this. Some of the comments we got on here was a bit of concern of, well, I'm not used to doing this. There's a lot of time to kind of get used to the systems and have a sense of how things work. But in general, that time, team dynamics were also an element that there. This was my favorite comment from the class. It was, to be honest, much of the learning from the class came from the doing the research and interviews for the project itself, not from class time. Some professors would say, oh, they said they didn't get much from my class, that's a bad thing. I saw this as the class worked. The point was they took the methods, they went out, they did the research themselves. They came back, they had something to report and something to do. Well, let me say a few more lessons and then give you one more example of this. The other question, of course, is this is a nice framework, but some of the students as well thought the topic was too complex. And there's this concept of wicked problems, right? Problems that really are very complex and hard to untangle. And isn't it the case that some design methods are supposed to be sort of the ideal way to begin to address some of these things? But indeed, taxation is not an easy subject. It wasn't easy for me to convey now what the students were doing. It wasn't easy for the students to look at, and kind of untangling these things can be complex. The distance from interviewers was too great. I mentioned this already in terms of products. It's like something actually they could touch, which was also an interesting perspective, because the goal was to talk about this idea of these sorts of policies. So, I did another class like this, and I tried to fix the problems. Fix it isn't quite the right word. I tried to address some of the issues we came up with. First, we talked about something that are called citizen budgets. A citizen budget is simply a way of displaying the information that you get from, say, the city hall or from your government. This is a bit more like a type of product, some information design. There are some things that the students read to work on this. There's a concrete output. They have to design a citizen's budget. And we had project sponsors. One was this thing called the International Budget Partnership, so they had some ideas. But we had the Ministry of Finance do a sponsorship. And for the final presentations, we had the City of Berlin come. They sent representatives to come, listen to what the students had to say, and also critique what it is that the students developed. Now, I talked about something called a citizen's budget. One of the first questions the students had to ask is, well, what form should this take? Okay, this is information. But should they design a poster that gives you information? Should they design an app for your iPhone or for your Android device? Should they do a web page? How interactive should this be? And what they did, following also what the other class did, is they did a lot of ethnographic research. So a group of students went to the Berlin Marathon. If you run, in terms of how this runs, there's always a marathon every year. They set up a booth, and they did a lot of research based on different types of prototypes that they brought with them to see how do people play with it if it's an app. How do people deal with it if it was posted? In one case, they followed the eyes, and where do the eyes go on the screen in terms of getting this out? Again, these are public policy students thinking about a policy topic as opposed to history, design topic. These are some examples of some of the prototypes they did themselves. They were all required to develop prototypes for these sorts of things and talk about them in practice. What you have at the bottom is the prototype for what indeed turned into an iPad app, which what they did is they provide apps to the people in class. This is another example of how this sort of thing works. This comes from one specific part of Berlin. But this was a poster the students designed. And one of the intriguing things is when the students went and did the research, there were 3 different teams working hard to do this. They came up with 3 different perspectives. This team felt that apps were boring, that people were tired of looking at screens, and the old-fashioned way of doing posters was the best way to convey information. And so they designed this poster and one other poster, and they planned to put these in front of schools and other public places to get information. But I mentioned the second team decided it was all about apps, and the third team put everything online and did an interactive web page in terms of providing this sort of information. Now, this is an example, by the way, of the web page, and the idea of this was you have something here, and you click on this, each time you click, you get more and more information. I should say this is a bit, there are some countries that already use something about this in terms of the interactivity of it. One of the things that they focused on, though, was making this more simple, because some of these things seem to be very complex. Now, this I thought was quite useful for some of the lessons that came from the discussion with some of the people who came. Somebody from the Berlin City came and said, I never thought of looking at the perspective of the target group. Okay, the idea here was, who are going to be the users of the information that they produced? And they felt it was just necessary to do it because there was some law that said, I have to put this information online. And the one example, they had documents that had 650 pages. This was the budget document. They had a 91-page PDF document to explain how to read the 650 pages, which of course nobody could read. And for them it was a technical exercise. We are required to do certain things. But there had been no consideration of who the user was going to be of this information. So what the students did is they showed kind of, well, this is our user base based on a lot of ethnographic research, based on a lot of survey evidence. This is the type of document that we produce, and at least we have dialogue going in terms of how this works. Now, one constraint was simply that even though they had this discussion, the city officials said, well, we have laws that explain what we can and can't report, and it's nice that you do these great documents, but in the end, we have laws that restrict what it is we can do. So we take this into consideration, but it's going to be difficult to make some changes. Well, I think what I'd like to stress is there's clear utility to this approach. And again, the utility is beyond just what you see in terms of product design. There's this comment that you get from Kagan and Vogel, this reference to product opportunity statements. And I would like to call them maybe policy opportunity statements. That is, you can take some of this design methodology, but apply it to public problems. I think also you need to spend some time thinking about the scope of the problem before you talk about the solution. Okay, what is the thing you're trying to address? Is it information? Is it treating different tax bodies fairly and these sorts of things? But these are elements that I think you would want to bring out as well. So, final comment, looking forward, we're thinking about other applications of this in other sorts of classes. That is, applying this to other types of problems. And one thing that we're happy with is that some students who've now graduated from the programs, a few of them are now working in some public innovation labs, asking some of the similar types of questions as well. Public innovation labs is another topic in the policy area, thinking about what's the institutional structure that you may have and may want to set up to enable this type of inquiry, to enable some experimentation in policy. Although Mariana is not here right now, she also talked about this move towards more experimentation, more transparency, like in her talk. And what you can do is through some of these innovation labs and through training students who may be like you, some of you are already designers, people who are based in business, people with this background can do other sorts of things. So, I very much appreciate the time and the opportunity to come today. Again, I come from Berlin, as you see from this picture.